Hola a todos! Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're undoing all the work that I've done over the past few weeks. So in the last episode where I was talking about fonts, I was really making a mess of things. And after I had chosen my title font, my heading font, body, and that little decorative signature font, things just were not looking cohesive in the sense that some fonts were looking elevated while some fonts were looking a little bit rough on the edge. And I used one of my clients' brand guidelines as an example to see how their fonts work together. And something that I noticed is that all of their fonts don't have any perfect edges. They're all kind of like a natural and organic feel. And so when I looked up one of their fonts, because I was curious to see where they were finding theirs, because guess what? I was sourcing my fonts through Google Fonts. You call yourself a designer? You don't know what the you're doing. No, let's be kind to ourselves. So I started from scratch, sourcing fonts through Envato, and this took me on a week-long search through all the fonts that they had available because I was looking obviously for a font that can work with my logo, for my heading, my body, and that signature font. And to tell you that, it's still a work in progress. I still have a lot of fonts to work through to see what's the right combination. And it's been really exhausting, to be honest, but I'm so happy that I'm doing this exercise even though nobody's watching. And if you are watching, hey! And I'm happy that I'm doing this exercise because this is a case study for me to use in the future when it's time to work with a brand new brand. I do have a client right now that is starting a new business next year, and I am going to be building her brand from the ground up the same way that I'm doing my own right now. So this is a great exercise for that, and all the work that I've done is for nothing. But it is a little bit frustrating having to start over once you feel like you've gotten to a point where you're, okay, I have a logo that I can put on my Instagram. Oh, but guess what? Not acceptable based on my standards. But Envato is such a great tool for finding fonts. I have selected some logo fonts that work well so far with my logo. I also like some H1 fonts, and I still haven't put all of these fonts together the way that I did with the previous exercise that I was doing with fonts. So I'm not 100% sure how they look together. My main focus right now is finding two fonts that work together in a logo, and this is what I have so far. As you can see, I'm just kind of playing around. Nothing is perfect right now, and I learned a new thing in my graphic design class that I'm taking, remember, on Skillist. Is that how you say it? Skillist? When I was talking about my body font and choosing that, specifically how the A is designed, it's called double story, where it's written traditionally, like I said, and the modern way that it's written with the regular A is called standard. And so this is my second to last episode of this series. Obviously, I still have so much work to do, but once I finish these Canva classes, I'm going to focus deeply on finalizing the logo, creating that brand kit, which the brand kit is next week's episode. So that's the mess that I have going on with fonts right now, just to be fully transparent with you. Not a lot of progress there. Actually, there is progress. Who am I kidding? Moving on. Today's lesson, we learned about connecting your brand with color and styling your imagery. I already touched on some of these things in the last episode. I had already shown you the colors that I chose from the Larimar stone. That's from the Dominican Republic. But one important thing that I'm going to do before I finalize that is to do more research into what emotions certain colors evoke. Obviously, blue evokes a sense of calmness and trust, which is why a lot of banks use it. But I want to make sure, I think what's most important to me right now is to communicate that this is an edgy brand while still maintaining some of those organic elements, which is why I chose the stone, because I didn't want this creative and marketing studio to feel like it was very techy or tech forward, even though obviously a lot of the work I do involves technology. But I do feel like the strength of my studio comes from here. I mean, I guess you could consider this its own computer.
Yo tengo una mente con 4 computadoras.
And then the second lesson that we went over today was styling your imagery. Again, like I said, I did touch on this in the last episode. I still have a picture of the sun hand drawn, which like little tick marks being my icon. And there are going to be some organic elements in my website, potentially some floral backdrops or some foliage. And so in terms of the imagery of my brand, I'm still not 100% sure how that's going to look in terms of when I create a graphic for social media for educational purposes, or maybe like a cover image to show a before and after project or something that's in progress. That will obviously come with time as I continue to work with my fonts and identifying basically my brand identity, because it's still in the works. And this is a lot of work. I honestly didn't think You don't know until you do it or you get into it how much work it's going to be, but it's also a lot of fun. And in the end, it might fail because I don't know if you know, but your brand isn't only what you say it is, it's what people perceive it to be. So I can be doing all this work, like I said in my last episode, in a vacuum. And then once I launch and I'm ready, it does not communicate to people what I want the brand to be because they're going to perceive it how they perceive it. But what's important is to keep trying and just keep going. And if you've been following along and watching my videos, thank you so much. Consider subscribing. I do have one more episode left, and after I finish this series, I'm going to really put my head down and focus on developing my entire brand. And I'm not entirely sure yet if I want to continue this series as I'm building my website, because currently I'm rebuilding a website for a client and I'm learning a lot about the psychology of how to build that structure of your page, which is something that I didn't really consider before. My personal website is just a portfolio of images. It doesn't really tell a story. And so I would be curious to see what that exercise looks like, because a lot of the work that I'll be showing on my beasolstudio.com website is past work. So like and subscribe and stay tuned to see how Bea Soul Studio is gonna come to life. See you on the next one. Bye.